Chances are, if you're watching this video, today is a super exciting day for you because you just got your bike, but it's time to unbox it, build it up, and show you guys ultimately how to get out there riding. At this point, there's a lot of packaging to get off of here, so I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling it off. Probably have a garbage can nearby, just throw everything into that, and be sure to have some snips because there's a lot of zip ties holding on some protection bits to keep your bike safe in the box. Now I got the bike uncovered, but before I actually take it off of this box, to make things easier on me, while it's secure to the box, I'm actually gonna put the handlebars onto the bike so that these aren't dangling while I'm trying to get this pulled out of the box itself. So let's go ahead and put the handlebars on. In order to do this, you're gonna need a 6mm Allen. That is gonna loosen these bolts here. But there is a zip tie right here holding on to the keys for this bike. So let's actually carefully get that off, pull the keys away from where you're working. So let's go ahead and loosen these 4 bolts. This is the mount for the headlight. You're going to want to keep this mount here. It's gonna go underneath the stem. So let's be sure to loosen off these bolts, but keep that mount in place. All right, got all the bolts off the bike, so let's go ahead and just flip these handlebars over. Put them right on top of there, put these bolts back in place. This part can be just a little bit tricky trying to line everything up properly, but take your time. You definitely want to make sure that everything is lined up before it goes into place. Before I go any further, this stem has actually got 2 mounting positions. There's a forward and a back position. If you're a taller rider, you might like it forward. If you're a shorter rider, you might like it back. I'm not a very tall guy, so I'm actually going to put it into the back position. Now these are supposed to be torqued to 9 Newton meters. There's a couple of different methods to doing this. Some people do the back and then go to the front. I personally like to crisscross. And I do that pattern a couple times until the torque settles in. All right, so handlebars are now on the bike. We torqued these to spec. This display is a little bit loose, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a 3mm Allen, put that in the position that I want it to be, and just tighten that up. This part's always satisfying on a new bike. One last step before we take the bike off of the crate. Let's get this headlight installed onto that bracket. This is a 3mm Allen. You'll pull these bolts out of the headlight. And then all of these wires, you kind of want to do your best to organize into a way that works for the bike. So the most important thing is keeping this front brake line out of the way and not tangled into all of these wires here. The rest can kind of settle back. You can settle them back here into the front. It's all gonna get covered up by a number plate. At that point, you're gonna take this headlight, you're gonna push it into its mounting bracket, like so. And then you can put those bolts back through. All right, so I'm not the biggest fan of the way that all these wires are kind of organized back here. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the zip tie that is on this bundle. I'm gonna try to reorganize these to where they kind of settle in better than what they're currently. So let's get these untangled. I'll probably even have to unplug a couple of these and route them a little bit different. But the ultimate thing is this front brake line needs to stay out of the way. The rest of this is gonna get tucked behind a number plate, but this needs to stay in front of it. Now once you've got your wires settled in a little bit better of a fashion, you can go ahead and take your headlight and push it onto the mounting bracket. And then just go ahead and put those 3mm back inside. Now that my headlight's on and these wires are reorganized in a better fashion, I'm gonna take and re-zip tie them kind of back in place. All right, let's go ahead and get this bike off of the crate. I'm gonna remove this orange strap here. I'm gonna loosen up all these pinch bolts. These are 4mm Allens. I'm going to take 2 19s and loosen this axle. And now I need to push this axle through the block and pull it out this side. It's going to release the entire front end. So it's usually a lot easier to have a friend kind of taking the pressure off and then pulling this axle out. All right, axle is out of the front. This bike is now released from its box. You can either pull out the battery or you can He-man it and just lift it onto a stand. That's gonna be the next step to things, so. All right, just released it from the box. Now I can get it moved over to a stand. It's a lot easier to do if you take the battery out of the bike. All right, so we got the bike out of the box. Now there's this pretty pink wrapped up accessories kit. So let's go ahead and pull all of this tape and pink stuff off of it and see what all's inside. All right, we have got the number plate for the bike right there. Open this up here. We've got a little tool kit to help you work on the bike. Looks like we got some tempered glass for the actual screen itself. It's really interesting that they included this. It's really cool to see a company that cares enough to put a screen protector in there for your bike. Got a couple of zip ties for your number plate. You've got your front wheel spacers. Here you've got your foot pegs. These are definitely one of the better foot pegs on the market. You've got your fender bolts. You've got an instruction manual here. And then this is really cool. This is coming in a lot of the first founders bikes is what they're calling them. It's basically a plaque just showing you which number you've got. This bike that I'm opening now is number 84, but it's really cool that they included something like this. Makes it feel a little bit special. And then lastly, this is the charger itself. All right, so let's go back to working on the bike. So let's start out with kind of the easy side of things. Let's put the front number plate on. Remember, your front brake cable needs to be out in front of this number plate. So you're gonna go ahead and put that there and then put zip ties around the fork legs. Moving on to the front fender, there's 3 4mm Allen bolts. I'm gonna go ahead and put those in. It's best to get them all in by hand first before you go ahead and tighten them down with an Allen. All right, we're now ready to get the front wheel installed on the bike. To do that, we're gonna have to put in these spacers. It's a little bit easier to put a little bit of grease just right around the edge of the O-ring on these. And then at that point, I'll kind of just plop into the wheel, like so. Do the same thing on the other side. A little bit of grease around the edge. Boom. You'll also want to put a thin layer of grease on the front axle. Alright, this is ready to go get installed on the bike. Alright, let's go ahead and slide the front wheel into the bike. You want to line the rotor up with the caliper. This part's always a little tricky. You want to try your best to keep those spacers aligned, going in where they need to go. Once you get it to settle, it's always easier to take the axle and put it from the right to the left. I'm going to take the other axle nut, put that in. You'll want to kind of center out the axle a little bit. Take two 19 millimeter sockets. Now that those are tight, I'm going to go ahead and tighten my pinch bolts back up. You'll want to go back and forth tightening these so that they clamp down together. Then repeat that on the other side. Go ahead and get our foot pegs installed. Now, one of the most important things about this is you want to make sure that not only is it aligned to where the foot peg is flat, but when you hit a rock, the foot peg is going to flick backwards and then deflect back forward. If you have the wrong side and you hit a rock, that's not going to happen and you're going to break a lot of components in here. It is also a 14 millimeter socket, so you'll go ahead and take this off. Slot that through, line up those pins, you'll feel it kind of click into place. And once that's in place, put the nut back on the other side and tighten it down. Let's repeat that on the other side. All right, now your bike is assembled, but before you plug in the battery and you go ride it, I would highly suggest doing a couple of things. Mainly, go through all the rest of the bolts that you have not touched yet. So go through the fork pinch bolts, make sure that everything is tight there. Go through the rear shock and the linkage, make sure the rear axle is tight. You really want to go through the entire bike, mainly for peace of mind, just to know that everything is secure the way that it needs to be. Set your levers up how you want to set those up. And yeah, at that point, let's get into showing you how to actually turn on the battery. Just go ahead and take your keys, insert it into the side here. I always put a little bit of pressure right here. Open that up. Now you can open your lid. So the battery on these bikes come already plugged in. You can click this button here. It's gonna light up the display, show you what percentage you're at. And then right here, if you click this is going to actually power the bike. So you'll see this light up green. It's gonna reset the display. Now the bike is ready to go. So you can go ahead and close your lid and turn the bike on. All right, let's go through how to actually tune the bike itself. So the bike is currently turned on. The app is called VTB. I'm gonna go ahead and click into this app here. It's gonna search for the bike VTB FOC V1. I'm gonna click on that. It's gonna enter into the bike. You'll know it's actually connected when you click on these modes here, and it actually changes and makes a noise on the bike itself. So I'm gonna put the bike back into neutral. Here on the left, you'll see 25, 50, 75, 100. This is the regen of the bike. So when you let off the throttle, this is going to determine how much engine braking it has. It also pushes energy back into the battery. I typically ride around 25 amps, but to each their own on that. And then on the right here, you'll have your 3 different drive modes. So to adjust these drive modes, you go into parameter settings. This will show you the modes themselves. D1 is at a speed control of 40%, and that 40% is of this power control here. So I'm at 400 amps. That is the highest it's going to let me go. That is a peak of 32 kilowatts. That is an insane amount of power. That's why I'm limited to 40% of that right now. D2 is 60% of that. D3 is 90% of that. The max motor current is essentially your phase amps. So your torque that comes into the bike itself, that is going to be your motor current there. 550 amps of torque is quite a bit. Going anywhere above that, I probably would not recommend doing. That's just very difficult to get the traction to the ground itself. So I'm going to keep this one at around 450. Then the lever that's on the thumb here, this E-assist brake mode is where you adjust that. I've got 3 different settings within here. You can do an E-clutch, UPS, or brake with power cut off. I'm going to keep it to UPS there. That is going to be kind of just like a regen brake. Out of the box, all these settings are in a really good place. I really would not adjust it from where it is. Just go out and ride it, but if you want to adjust it, maybe boost up some power, this is where you go to do that. You can also adjust different modes within this machine. So not only do you have 3 different drive modes, you have actually 3 different complete preset modes. So you can edit the curve of your throttle, you can edit the curve of your electronic braking. There's a lot that you can do within these menus. Definitely the type of thing that makes this bike a tuner's paradise. You get to go in and adjust it to what you want it to be. And once again, there are 5 different modes within that. So it's very interesting that you can do that. Getting into the advanced settings, I really would not adjust much in here, but if you want to, doing a motor calibration is definitely a good idea. It should be calibrated out of the box, but you'll want to make sure that the bike is actually on a stand when you go ahead and do this. You can also do a throttle calibration, make sure everything's nice and tidy with that. If you're feeling any issues within the bike, definitely go through and calibrate it. And there's a ton of different functionality within this app. So go through, really learn the bike, see what all you want to set your settings to. And yeah, that is kind of a brief overview of the app itself. So within the actual display on the bike itself, there's a lot of different adjustments that you can make through the hand controls on the bike. But first things first, let's click this OK button here. It's all in Chinese, so you're going to want to scroll down until you see the word English, click OK again, go up to English, click OK again, and now that changes everything to where you can actually go in and look through the bike. So clicking that OK button, coming back in, you've actually got a timer record. You can change the units. I'm going to change it from metric to British. You can adjust the brightness of the screen, the volume of the screen. And then this is a password unlock. So this bike, unlike the others, does not have a key. So this is where you're going to go to actually set a password on the bike. And to do that, you are going to click set password. Over here on the thumb controls, you're going to enter a password of your choice, and that is how the bike will unlock to be able to start riding. Now the battery on this bike is currently showing its percentage, but if the battery is ever not bound, you're going to click back into this menu with the OK button and scroll down until you see battery bind. So go ahead and click into that, click bind Bluetooth. It is going to then bind the actual controller to the battery, and you'll be able to see your percentage. Binding successful. Now when you're in this menu, instead of clicking OK to go through it, you can just scroll down and it's going to bring up a ton of different information for you to see. Pretty interesting, they've got this much information on the bike itself. Here's the battery. It even shows each individual cell on that battery itself and how it's balanced. So that's extremely cool that this controller is so intuitive. So within the actual controls of the bike here, this EBS up is going to determine that regen, so you don't have to adjust it through the app. The mode button is going to go through your pre-selected modes. So remember in the app I said there were 5 different selected modes. If you double click that, it is going to push you through those. To put this bike into reverse, you can simply hold down this R button here, and you'll hear a noise when the bike is actually active and ready to go. That dee-doo is going to put you into reverse. If you hold that down and twist the throttle, the bike will roll backwards, and then to get out of reverse, you simply just release it back into drive mode. So with the bike turned on, the throttle is not actually active right now. All you have to do is click this start engine button here. You'll see the ready and you'll see the drive mode, and now your throttle is active and the bike will start going. So there it is, guys. That's your Ventus One. That's how to get it built and assembled. That's how to go through the app and tune the bike if you want to. Once again, this bike is super good to go out of the box, but at least you've got all of that at your disposal. So go ahead and get to riding.